Kendra Tierney is on with us to talk about liturgical living, how to integrate the liturgical calendar into your family life and into your personal life. You won't want to miss this interview on how to integrate the Catholic faith into every moment of your life.
I thought we need to have a conversation like this. And Kendra Tierney is the one who came to mind about someone who's sort of living the Maria von Trapp theology, so to speak. Good morning to you, Miss Tierney.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, that book, Around the Year with the Von Trapp family, was really inspirational to me as I began this journey. I remember, getting it and reading it, and just, it's so beautiful to see what living an active life of faith in a home looks like.
Yeah, praise be to God. Sort of making tough choices in many ways, decisions, concrete decisions on how you're going to live your life, what that looks like, what family life really is. And I think that's pretty inspirational. I wanted to also say that just to start off with is the chapel behind you. Now, for those listening on the radio, Ms. Tierney is live on video stream. For those who want to hang out, you can always do so right on our website, grnonline.com/CDT. But a beautiful home chapel. This is something my family has also done, kick the TV out and build the home chapel. Tell us about yours.
This was when we moved into our house. There was this attic storage room, but with this beautiful cathedral ceiling and wood paneling, and we just knew it needed to be a chapel. So we didn't have much of a budget for it, so it's all paint and stencils and gifted items. So I designed all the stencils. It's English and Latin Bible verses and old art from vintage editions of the Roman Missal, and reclaimed things like these beautiful Stations of the Cross that were in the movie Little Boy, and we're going to get tossed out.
How fascinating. How did you come across those?
We're good friends with the director and his wife. So
how wonderful! That's amazing. How important do you think it is to, as the document Second Vatican Council stated, to transform your home into a domestic church? Why would that be important? Why would that be a priority for you, for your husband, for your children? And what is the effect on the children?
Well, if you just think about how many, 1 hour a week at Sunday Mass is such a small fraction of our time. But the rest of the week, the days that we're home in our family, that's the domestic church, and it's been so transformational for our family to have our faith be a part of our day-to-day life, be a part of our family culture. And to have those conversations around important church truths, around the lives of the saints, to have that familiarity with these old Catholic traditions, these old prayers, and these funny old, traditional foods that are associated and activities that are associated with different feast days. And that's part of our inheritance as Catholics. That's, and it's a very effective and a really fun way to catechize ourselves and our family.
I'm sitting here thinking about all the different layers involved in living this liturgical lifestyle. It's not just liturgies. It's not just prayers. It's something you said a minute ago. It's food, right? It's customs, it's traditions. And part of me thinks, well, maybe it's the fact that the Von Trapps lived in Austria, a deeply Catholic-rooted country, and they just had these traditions as part of their culture 24/7, whereas most of us in America have been so removed from our past, our history, and our culture that we just can't wrap our minds around why this would be something. Like even the Cajuns in Louisiana still have king cake, for crying out loud. Even though it's become a kind of a secular thing, it has that root in the life of the liturgical calendar. Can you speak to that a moment, the different layers in that removal?
Yeah, absolutely. And, they will FedEx you a king cake from New Orleans if you order it.
Well, they sell them locally too.
Or you can make one yourself, which I've recently learned to do. But yeah, I think that for good and bad reasons, there has been a shift over the last 100 years away from these cultural practices and towards a more, I guess, ecumenical faith that emphasizes the things that we have in common with our Protestant brothers and sisters. And while I understand the impetus for that, and I like aspects of it, I think that it's too much for us to sacrifice to give up the things that make being Catholic unique and special and timeless, and have been part of the active practice of faith in families and in communities since the first days of Christianity. And I think that it's time to bring those things back. And there was a resurgence of these liturgical living in the home traditions in the 60s when Marie von Trapp was writing her book. And there was another book called The Year in Our Family by Mary Reed Newland that had these sort of similar ideas and how they could be practiced in the home and in the family. But what I think we need to do for ourselves and for our kids and for our communities is to make Catholicism weird again. We need to focus on what makes us special and unique.
All right, hold that thought. We're about to go to a break. I wanted to ask you, were you raised Catholic? And your husband?
I was, yes. I was raised Catholic and had all my sacraments, but none of these sort of liturgical living in the home traditions was not part of my upbringing. And
where are you from originally?
I'm from San Diego and live in Los Angeles now.
I see. That is not very. Is there a strong Catholic community there? I mean, there's not a lot of talk about the sort of the strong traditional Catholic families coming from San Diego. So what was that like?
Well, you wouldn't think, right? But and it's not something that I'm personally familiar with in San Diego because I had really moved away before I sort of had the resurgence of faith. But after I was married, my husband and I were living in Chicago, and there is a strong cultural Catholicism on the in the south side of Chicago, where we grew up with his where we were living with his Irish Catholic family. And he got a job opportunity in Los Angeles, and we were so worried moving our young family to Los Angeles that it was going to be crazy. But what we've found is that there is a very intentional Catholic community here in Los Angeles because it isn't in any way, it is a countercultural decision that every person has made. So if a person is sitting in Mass, it's because they have overcome obstacles in their personal and professional life to walk through those doors.
Choose that.
That's been interesting, and we have found a beautiful faith community here, really. So, you just have to know where to look.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's very counter-revolutionary. And but I was thinking about this. I know a lot of families who have become more intentionally Catholic, have become more traditionally Catholic. And at this point, though, they have kids that are like 15, 16, 17 years old. And then they also have kids that are 4, 5, 3 years old. And they're like, okay, but we want to integrate this liturgical living into our lives. But we don't want to drive away our older kids, but we still want to give the faith to our younger kids. How do you start approaching, like, bringing this into the family? I'm assuming it's easier when the kids are younger, but if you have kids like that, how do you start bringing these things practically into their lives?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I would agree with you that it is ideal to be inspired by your young kids and start it when they're young. But I do personally know families who have converted with older kids, and that can be very effective for the whole family. It just takes some time and patience. But I do know families where it's been really effective. But I think that our faith isn't something that that has to look perfect to our children, and that we have to remember that it's the Holy Spirit at work. We're just helping provide that framework, and so I think that if we present this to our older kids as, hey, we're going to make a change, these are some things that we're going to try, and And in our family, our kids, even our teenagers, are required to participate in all sorts of things that they might not rather participate in, but that's family stuff. And so I think that obviously it's going to depend on your family culture, how you approach it. But a lot of this stuff, and that's kind of a crutch that liturgical living in the home can be, because a lot of it is fun and conversation and desserts, and teenagers like desserts, and they can have those positive associations with it while you're learning, while you're having these conversations.
And so what's the first step? Should they first start, integrating feast days, or what's the first step? Should I do like putting up artwork? What's the first thing to do?
Well, I think that you have to do, what feels particularly meaningful to you is I think a great way to start. But I have two books on the subject. The first one is the Catholic All Year Compendium, and that one talks about sort of the history and the stories behind about 100 feast days and each of the liturgical seasons. And in that one, I really lay out particular sort of plan of attack for baby steps moving forward. And what worked in my family was to focus on the feast days of the people in our home, because everybody likes to feel special. And so we started off with just having a special meal and a dessert and talking about that saint and why we wanted to name our child after that saint or choose that as a patron saint for our child. We also started observing our baptismal anniversaries in the same way, because if we believe what we say we believe about baptism, that's more important than our birthdays. So that was the way that we started, was sort of a focus inward. Even though those might not be the most important feast days to the universal church, it was a really good way to start in our home. And then the second book that just recently came out is called the Catholic All Year Prayer Companion. That's this one. And that one was written more with sort of dads and older kids and single people in mind. It's prayer resources that are formatted around the liturgical year and associated with different feast days. So if you're not in a place in your life, it doesn't have to be food, and it doesn't have to be activities, and it doesn't have to be things that would engage little kids. Liturgical living in the home traditions are 100% also for grownups and teens and single people and everyone. And I know, that for people who live in religious communities, also, I love hearing from them that they use the book. So that one you can just pick up, open up to a prayer, and start incorporating these different ways of praying that the church gives us.
Amen. Kendra Tierney is our guest. Her website is CatholicAllYear.com, CatholicAllYear.com. Check her out on Instagram as well. Kendra, now we have a similar type of family structure and life, and I have received many times sort of the criticism that I'm keeping my family in a Catholic bubble, and they will turn out to be naive. Have you received a similar criticism?
I feel like I am in a Catholic bubble, so no. But my husband, I think, probably has.
What would you say to that? If someone were to levy that against you, what would be your response?
Yeah, what I think that I like to call it circles of influence. And I think that the way that God created our family structure is such a beautiful thing, and that it's important that my husband and I and our immediate family be the most important influence in young kids, Amen. In our young children's lives. Amen. And then, as they get older, then they can be influenced by our close friends and our community that are handpicked. And as they grow in maturity and as they are more well-formed, they are more able to handle those outside influences. And so, my son is going into his sophomore year at USC next year. And we are not sheltering him as a 19-year-old. But I think that because we put in the time where he was predominantly influenced by our family and where he was able to internalize our beliefs and understand why we believe the way that we do. I think that has prepared him to go out into the world.
During the break, Adrian and I were talking and joking. The Maria von Trapp lifestyle, the Maria von Trapp family theology, must mean that your kids probably sing and play instruments and are very talented. How has that gone for your family?
We are not particularly musical. We give it a go because really hymns and singing are an important part of these liturgical living traditions. That there are particular hymns that you're supposed to sing on particular days, and you can get indulgences for them. So we give it a go. But
you give it a go.
But it's not our talent.
What about doing the divine office or little office of Our Lady? I know at my parish, they have Compline every night, and they invite the parishioners to come in and pray Compline with the priest. And what about doing the divine office or the little office of Our Lady in the family? Do y'all do that, or any advice that way?
That's not something that we do on a daily basis. It's part of a couple of our liturgical living in the home traditions, like the Christmas novena that we do for the 9 days before Christmas. So if you're looking for a way to sort of baby step into that, doing the Christmas novena that's included in a prayer companion contains a lot of the elements of that. And there are beautiful elements of it included in some of our Holy Week traditions, especially the Tenebrae ceremony that we do sort of an at-home version of. I think that the office is just beautiful, and I would love to incorporate it more, but as of right now, that isn't something that our family does on a regular basis.
Now, what about other prayer life that you do on a daily basis? Take us through a day. We have a couple of minutes left in our conversation with you. What does a day in your family life look like?
Yeah, I think that the goal has to be in conversation with God all day long. And that's what a robust prayer life is. And it's going to involve some time of dedicated prayer, going to the Mass, saying the Rosary together as a family. Those things are so great and important, and we try to work those in. But there's also these great, prayers that are associated with different times of day. So, the morning offering, the Angelus at noon, and evening prayers are a beautiful way to structure your day, sort of the way that the liturgical year is structured.
All right. Well, that music means we're out of time.
If you like that interview, then check out some of our other interviews that you might find fascinating. And don't forget to like and subscribe and share this interview with someone that you think will find this informative and inspiring. God love you.